Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Chats with Chaudhrey. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Anupam Nandwana, who is the founder and CEO of P360. And today, we're talking about a topic I haven't spoken about before, actually, which is the challenges around healthcare provider engagement with pharma. So, first of all, Anupam, it's lovely to meet you. How are you?
Great. How are you, Rizwan? It's nice to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
Well, looking forward to talking to you as well. So, before we start, though, where are you calling in from out of interest?
I'm based out of New Jersey in the United States.
All right. Well, hopefully, I mean, it's still relatively early in the morning for you there.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
about 10 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, I hope the sun is shining where you are. It's sunny here in Surrey today.
today is a very pleasant day, and I can't wait for this coming weekend when the clock changes. So it's
Yeah, just to confuse us because we don't match actually the US. We're still going to be on our own time, so I have to make sure I add an hour
correct.
onto onto the
Yep,
times. Right. So before we start talking about the challenges around HCP engagement with pharma, would you mind giving viewers not familiar with P360 a
sure.
quick overview of the business, what you do, and also your own background as well?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for giving me this opportunity, and hello to our audience all over the world, wherever you are. Thank you for listening into. Myself, I'm Anupam Nandwana. I'm the founder and CEO of P360. We as a company, we are primarily focused on life sciences commercial business. So we make the sales and marketing enablement function. So all our solutions, product are primarily focused on data analytics and engagement as an output. I've personally been in this industry for over 20 years, did a lot of technology work, and it's been a very exciting time to be in this. Healthcare as an industry, and pharma specifically, is going through a tremendous change. So being in the middle of this, so there's been a lot going on, and we are having fun. So that's who we are.
Fantastic. So before we start talking about the current state of HCP engagement and the challenges around it, would you mind just explain to viewers what you actually mean when you talk about HCP engagement with pharma?
Right. So one of the hidden aspect of getting in healthcare when you visit your doctor or hospital, that HCP, apart from their medical knowledge and the education they have gained over through their education and practices, they also need to keep up with the developments in the drug cycles, right? We see a lot of innovation research which goes on. So there is this education from pharma to the HCPs and making sure they have what they need. And when HCP, in this case doctors, uh, uh, when they make those decisions, they are well informed, they're doing the right thing for their patients, and so on and so forth, right? So as much as everybody thinks pharma sells drug, pharma technically doesn't sell the drug. You have your physicians who write a script for you, which you get filled at the pharmacies. But pharma's job is to making sure the right HCPs and right products are aligned. There is an education, there's a content, and there is a promotion side of it, right? So there's a marketing and promotion side of it. So it's in a complex network of things how it happens. Pharma, like at least in the United States and every other country, the governing authorities allow you to promote your drugs for certain specialties or certain indications, age groups, and so on and so forth. So you are required to follow those guidelines and do it in a very specific way. And there are pretty clear do's and don'ts of what you can do in this
Sure.
promotional cycle. So it's a compliance burden, regulatory burden. At the same time, you are in a business of making drugs, so you need to promote it and sell it. So that whole algorithm together makes HCP engagement very, very important for the pharma companies. They do invest a lot of time, money, resources in making sure they're aligned exactly to the right target physicians.
Right. And historically, how have pharma companies engaged with HCPs?
So one of the, it's funny you asked that. Like we have all been in doctor's office in waiting room, and when we are waiting, we see these individuals come in a business professional suite or the bag in hand. Those are the pharma sales reps who are visiting doctor's office. And over the years or decades, I would say, it was the only way primarily it happened was a rep showed up in doctor's office. They waited patiently. They spent some, like, found doctor's time. And then you convince, you do what you need to do. You show them the new studies you found or whatever the material you have. In some cases, you might have some samples which you drop in doctor's office, grab their signature. So that engagement was in person for most part.
Right.
And that's how last 30, 40 years have been. I will tell you a funny incident. I was reading some blog, and one pharma rep who has retired since then, he said, one of the doctors I visited, the way he treated me is he told me to just sit in the same queue as other patients. So when he would just treat me, give me a time slot like he would give it to any of his patients.
Sure.
And then you had an opportunity to engage. But unfortunately, the workload on doctors have exponentially grown. The things have changed. They are burdened heavily. Also on physician side, there is a lot of expectation how they document everything. So the time and the availability of physicians becoming very scarce resource, if you call it.
Right. Okay. And obviously, the pandemic would have had a major impact anyway in terms of how pharma could engage with HCPs, particularly on a face-to-face basis, I'm guessing.
That's a great question. So one anecdotal evidence, even before pandemic, when 2 years ago, we were all forced to go into this lockdown or remote engagement or non-accessible environments, pharma to physician access was down about 44%. Right. So, and there are a lot of publicly available studies and numbers where roughly 1 out of 2 physicians did not let the pharma reps come in. So the engagement problem was pretty big to begin with. And then come COVID, and COVID-19, and everything gets shut down. So now the problem is just compounded. What it did is it stopped the access. Now you are pharma, where your primary channel of engagement is face-to-face, have these individuals come in, have to change on time. And I give a lot of credit to the industry. They did a great job in adjusting. But that's also a beginning of a new era of how the physician engagement will work. Some of those changes which got applied during COVID-19 protocols may stay, right? Some physicians might just say, okay, this is a better way of me engaging. And there are companies out who have started who have done studies. We have done our own studies, and later in the conversation, I can give you some examples. But some physicians prefer that, to be remotely engaged. For them, it's a value for their time, and they can do it when they want to do it. So the lack of access to physician wasn't because of physicians didn't want to do it. It's just they had no time or it didn't work for them.
Right. So if pharma haven't been able to engage face to face, and obviously we talked about the pandemic, they certainly couldn't do that anyway, because of the pandemic. How have they been engaging with HCPs then over that period, and are doing so at present as well?
Right. It's challenging. So there are tools and technologies available, like we all have come to learn about video conferencing or things of those nature, or sending the information via emails in a certain format. But it's not very optimal, right? I mean, because sometimes, like I will give you an example, at least in the United States, about 40% of some doctors' practices have been purchased by the large hospital groups, the IDN. When they do that, there is a technical limitations. It's like working in a corporate network, right? You bring your home computer, you can't just plug it and start doing something. So same thing this doctor's offices have. So they get run into challenges with the connectivity or putting a new device, and it's frustrating for them, but also it creates a real problem. So companies have adopted tools and technology. There are vendors and companies who are building. We as a company also took this as an opportunity. We were also already doing a lot of this before pandemic, but we took an opportunity to reevaluate and see what does the future of the engagement looks like, and build platforms and services around it. So if you look at holistically, there is a digital transformation going on across the board in every company, every industry. But this is one of the core components of what's going to happen in the future.
Right. Okay. Now, obviously, we were talking about the engagement, but a lot of other industries are looking at omnichannel engagement. So how is Pharma doing that?
Oh, it's a great question. It's the buzzword, keyword, if you call it, across every conference room in every pharma company, right? How do we make engagement easier? Pharma spends a lot of resources on getting physician attention, whether it's a journal ad, whether it's a TV ad, whether it's sending an email, sending a rep. So there are so many things which are going on. But what happens is sometimes not being able to pick the right channel can create a lot of resistance. So one of the things which we look, if you are an individual pharma company and Dr. Rizwan is your customer, you only see one, but Dr. Rizwan's got company A, B, C, D, E, all trying to get his attention.
Sure.
So that compounds very quickly. So one of the things which we heavily invested into is how do we create that customer experience for HCPs? Like, can I just send you a regular text message and you read it on your phone and can answer and get what you need? I remind you, it's not as easy as me sending a text message to my friend because there's a whole regulatory compliance,
Sure.
like ability to monitor what goes on. You have to be very precise. So that all's happening. To answer your omnichannel question, it's an ongoing process, right? So the companies are collecting a lot of data. There's a lot of investment going on into what could be my next best action. How do I modularize the content I'm delivering so it's friendly? We unfortunately all are losing our ability to read longer documents, longer videos, right? So we have to create the fragments of those things. So there is a lot of focus on it. It comes with a lot of expectation that how you will manage your data, how modern is your infrastructure around it, and how well you can execute that.
Right. Okay. And now, obviously, we're talking about, you mentioned content there. So how is Pharma handling the content delivery to HCPs? I mean, you said obviously trying to personalize it, but how are they handling it? Because they've got so much different content and different types of content, as you just mentioned earlier, in terms of there's information, there's advertising, there's research papers, there's lots of different things that they're trying to communicate. So how are they handling all that content delivery?
So we are on a very beginning stage of this change. One of the things which has worked for other industry well is multi-purposing the same content.
Sure.
So you can take one content and repurpose it for different channel and optimize it for that channel, whether it's an email, whether it's a text, whether it's a video delivery, or whatever that is, and going through the one approval cycle versus multiple approval cycle and things like that. So pharma is starting to get the hang of that. And as these channels are becoming optimized, the content delivery is following along of that.
Right.
That's going to be a pretty big focus over the next few years. I see, like the way I expect this to play out.
Now, you mentioned about digital transformation, which obviously is a huge topic when you talk about pharma. So from your perspective, where's the investment going in digital transformation from pharma's perspective? I mean, where is all the money going?
And like, I know I should have done this in the beginning of the conversation, but let me explain. A lot of my answers are coming from commercial business of the pharma's perspective. Pharma has multiple units. Like if you look at the challenges in manufacturing and supply chain versus research and development and the commercial side, they're all challenges of different caliber, and it's not one size fit all, but the core of how you build your infrastructure still remains the same. So, and I want to make sure I clarify that, like if you hear an answer, it's not very specific to like clinical versus commercial, but you can take and transform that parallelly. Lot of, I think we are all accepted it's a cloud first world. So the more quicker your cloud transition is. Because surprising, we are in about a decade into the cloud transition story, and there is still a lot of legacy information which is sitting on premise information structure.
Sure.
It's not only expensive, it's less secure, but it's also stopping this digital transformation goal because access to data is not as easy.
Sure.
And a lot of focus is around data management, creating master data management system, creating enterprise data lake. So, and a typical mid-sized pharma company could have over 100, 150 sources just for the commercial business. Whether these are data sources generated from internal system, they buy a lot of data. It's a pretty data-rich industry.
Sure.
So one thing which works in pharma's favor, they have access to a lot of data, but it comes with the challenges. You have to operate it at that level to get the best out of it. So if you ask 20 years ago, people had, okay, I wish I had this data. Now you have all the data. Now you have to make an action out of it.
You're drowning in it, basically. Yeah, you're trying to make sense.
Right. And you also have to eliminate the noise, right? Not just because you have data doesn't mean everything is valuable.
That's very true. Going to say sorry.
No, so just to finish up the point, so a lot of investment is in making sure you are future-proofing your data estate. Like I use this word quite often. Like I think it's no longer just like a data warehouse, right? You have an enterprise data estate, which you are ingesting your large amount of data and making your business units self-sufficient to use what they need to use.
So that leads in quite nicely to my next question, which was how does AI and machine learning then play a role in terms of leveraging that data and making a better understanding of that data as well? Because as we all know, you can have lots of data, but it can be interpreted in many different ways as well. And how can you make it useful?
So AI is rather becoming ubiquitous, or it is already to an extent in some use cases, but over next several years, it's going to continue to be part of every data processing churn. We are already at inflection point, right? You are not going to be able to make sense of all this data without the power of AI. And it's not only what you can do with your customer, how do you monitor your business, how do you optimize, where do you find your opportunities? So it's in every facet of your business. You need to be able to make it. If I take a specific example, which we were talking about, HCP engagement, we have to treat each HCP as an individual, make our interactions personalized and deliver at scale, right? So ability to have that one-on-one engagement, but operating at scale is what AI and machine learning can do for you with the power of all these channels and data. So that's where the focus is. A lot of focus around what's my next best action when I'm interacting with certain HCP, how engaged they are or whatnot. Like there are a lot of drug companies which are dealing with the rare diseases, right? Rare, ultra rare. Sometime a disease could only have like few thousand patients. So ability to have data help you navigate where the patients could be, where the HCPs could be. Some diseases are so complex, they are interdisciplinary from doctor. You can go to one specialty doctor and then they might refer you to the other specialty doctor.
Sure.
So ability to track all those movement and keeping patients on those therapies, AI is the way it's going to happen. And so there's a lot of investment and focus on those things.
Right. Now you mentioned research that you've carried out yourself within the industry. So have you asked HCPs what they think about the relationships and what they want?
So one thing, and I'm going to paraphrase it, not word for word, but like I'm trying to explain the gist of what doctors told us in this story, right? Historically, the pharma to physician engagement has been always a push engagement, right? So if I generate a content, I want to send it to all the doctors which matter to me, or if my reps are going to show up in doctor's office. Yes, physicians want to engage, but they also want to engage at their time, their pace. So they are very keen on leveraging the pull channel, where if I need something, I can reach out to company A, B, C. right? And ask for specific things. There's a difference between how the specialty care doctors operate versus how primary care doctor operate.
Sure.
Like for primary care doctor, they have a lot of patients and there's a lot of volume which is moving around, and their needs sometimes could be as simple as, okay, I just need a copay card. If I send a text message to somebody and I get auto delivered, I'm done for now, but I will give you time later. And that customer experience, which we talked about, goes a long way in explaining how those works. If you take on the specialty care side, it's a whole different challenge because their appointments are very valuable, their time's very valuable, they have a lot of these specific needs. And sometimes sales reps, account managers are not equipped to answer all those questions. They might want to connect with medical science liaison. So they need that seamless transition between an pharma rep and MSL to be able to move. Currently, for most part, and that's by regulations, there's a strong firewall between rep and MSL. So what we need to find is how do you still live in a compliant environment and make that customer experience easy, the handover easy. So those are some of the key things HCPs are looking for. They have been very particular about how do you engage in terms of which channels, how they want to.
Right.
Emails are already, you can see across the board, whether you and I waking up and looking at our inbox or anything,
Sure.
right? We get so many emails, we are drowning. And so are doctors. So how do you stand out? All this investment you made, all this time you spent. Sometimes it could take a few weeks before what we call an approved email, which goes through the regulatory review process, get delivered. When you spend all the time and if you can't reach your customer, it's not a very pretty outcome.
Well, that leads on actually very nicely to my next question, which was, how are you as a company at P360 helping meet these challenges?
Thank you. So that's a great question. And the way we looked at it is, right, we can't force technology to be the answer. Yes, technology is going to enable the answer, but you can't have customer experience forced by technology.
Sure.
So we work backwards. What would be the easiest thing for a doctor or somebody in their staff or somebody in their office to do? And then how does our technology can backfill that gap and support it? So we started with customer experience. And we did a lot of studies, actually, multiple studies. And they said, okay, I can text everybody in my life, from a car service to the food service to my patients, everybody, but I cannot communicate with text. And I'm not saying pharma reps don't text. They do text to an extent, but they are always under the cloud. I don't know what I'm allowed to say. My compliance doesn't know about this. And what marketing misses out on is this very important channel. Like we have several brands who are promoted on our platform. They see over 90% of open rate, which is almost never heard of in any other channel. 60, 70% click-through rates. So this is a very rich marketing channel. So we build an entire platform like an engagement suite, considering where the future is. Gartner has already made a prediction. By 2025, 80% of the customer service interactions will be through text messaging. Companies are going to ditch the apps, and because look at this specific example we are discussing. If you are asking a doctor to go to a certain website, create an account, remember the login ID, password, execute their action, it's a lot for one. So, and compare that, okay, I can just type a text message or I can scan a QR code and just send something. That's a very easy thing for them to do. So we invested heavily and we have built this entire engagement platform, and it's all powered by data and AI, right? So we are also recommending, okay, what's the best time to engage? Okay, from the compliance perspective, there are certain words you should not type in your text messaging. The AI looks at it in real time and tells you. Also respecting doctors' privacy, right? Not using it as a mass marketing channel, but making it one-on-one communication.
Sure.
So as this pharma rep role evolves, it's gonna be customer advocate role, right? So between physician, physical engagement, digital engagement, and making sure the resources are available, we are providing tools and services to these companies. So, and we have several companies and large brands who have onboarded on our platform, and they are seeing some amazing results. So we feel pretty good about this, and we continue to invest and make it as easy as possible.
Fantastic. Well, that leads nicely, because I know we've run out of time now, but where can people get more information? They'd like to know more about the topic we've talked about, also about more about your solutions at P360.
So yes, we are available on all digital channels. Of course, the best place to go is p360.com. It's a very easy domain to remember. We are also on LinkedIn, Twitter, all these channels. So please visit p360.com, or you can connect with me personally on LinkedIn. I'm happy to share any information if anybody needs.
That's brilliant. Well, look, there you go, viewers. I've learned a lot today. Hopefully you have as well. So if you'd like to know more about the HCP engagement and within pharma, and also learn more about P360 and the solutions they can offer, then check out the website, the LinkedIn pages, and the other channels that Anupam said. And then all that's definitely say is, Anupam, thank you very much for taking the time out to talk to me today. It's been really interesting, genuinely, and I wish you lots of success in terms of developing the different products that you've got.
Thank you, Rizwan. It was an absolute pleasure, and I appreciate your time and opportunity to discuss this.
Thank you. And thank you, viewers, for watching. As I said, I hope you found it useful. Check out the links, which will be above the video. If you've got any questions for Anupam, send them in the comments page below the video as well. And I'm sure Anupam will be more than happy to answer those questions. And until next time, as always, stay well and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you.